perfect. Okay. Perfect. Well, welcome to For the Love of Literacy. I would say, how are you
Thank you.
today? You did just tell me a little bit about your morning. I'm
Gotta
so
love the
sorry.
dentist. Yeah,
You do. And I actually am like way overdue for a cleaning and checkup. So I need to get on that.
I know. Corona like bumped all of us back too. So it was long overdue.
For sure. Well, I am so beyond thrilled that you are here today. Seriously, I cannot even tell you.
Me
And
too.
would you mind introducing yourself to our audience today?
Yeah, I would love to. My name is Brooke Romney. I My Instagram handle is Brooke Romney Writes, and on Instagram I talk a lot about parenting, motherhood, like relationships, connection, and books here and there. The most exciting thing this year is I did self-publish a book in October of 2021. It's called I Like Me Anyway, Embracing Imperfection, Connection in Christ. And that's been a super fun and rewarding adventure. I have 4 boys and their age ranges from 9 to 18. So kind of an exciting year around here.
Definitely. I am just so impressed. I love that you're a boy mom. I did say that in my introduction, but I think that you rock it. I think it's hard for some moms that, like my sister's like, I'm just going to be a boy mom. I can feel it. She's got 2 right now. And I'm like, I
Yes.
think it can be really fun. I have a boy and a girl. So the dynamics are just different for every family, but it's just cool to see how people make it work.
Yeah, it's definitely, I was actually a super girly girl and totally imagined myself like with both genders. I think everyone does, but it
Hmm.
has been such a fun adventure to have these 4 boys and just kind of maybe not even rediscover, but discover different sides to myself. And they definitely helped me take myself less seriously. So it's good.
That is good. I probably need a few more boys in that case. We
Totally.
could do with some more boys over here. Well, that is fantastic. We are going to chat about your awesome book that has just seriously been amazing. It's one of those
Oh
books
my word.
that obviously I loved. It's one of those
Yeah, I love it.
books that you want to share with people. So my sister-in-law and I did a buddy read. I got this for her birthday. And now I'm like, okay, now I need to get it for all the moms for Mother's Day and just for all the people, because that's what's so cool is your book can really apply to anybody. It can.
Thank you so much. It's actually been really fun to see the variety of people that are reading it, and then the takeaways that they get from it are different than someone else's. I actually just had my first 2 male reviews. One is a person I
Cool.
know, and one is a person I've never met. So it's kind of fun to see that even men are, grabbing that pink book and trying to learn from it too. So
I love that. Well, yes, I mean, there's not a person on this planet that doesn't have imperfection. And so, whether or not we admit that we need Christ to help us through those imperfections is another ordeal. But just
yeah.
the fact that there are so many imperfections in the world, like this book really speaks to that. So, I could go on and on. We will go on and on. But really
Thanks.
quickly, before I jump into that, I have to tell you, I think it was in the first chapter, maybe second. I love this. I did not know you lived in Arizona before Utah and Virginia. So I am from
Yeah.
Virginia. I currently live in Arizona and we are moving to Utah next month. I'm not following you, I promise.
That is crazy. So you just need to add Michigan in there and you'll
Okay,
have all
yeah,
the
then I'll have
places.
been everywhere. Yeah, and were you guys there for medical school? Is that right?
No, just
Okay.
graduate school. My
Graduate
husband was
school.
in graduate
Okay.
school. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So we
Yeah.
haven't made it to Michigan, but yeah, I just love that. I was like, oh, I've got to make
It's
that
so fun.
connection with her. Well,
I love it.
especially because the church is so different back east than it is out here. It's
Yeah.
so monumentally different. My parents are both still in Virginia, and um, I loved how you described, like, it literally felt like you were in the same room with me. Your experience when you came to Arizona, because church was like that for me at first too. It was very hard for me. I felt more cliquish than I would have expected for Arizona, but then additionally, it was hard because I didn't have any kids yet. I was pregnant when we moved here, so it's always nice to have a kid to take to play dates. You're not just going to show
Right.
up at play dates.
Right.
So then it starts you build from there, you build momentum, but it takes a while to make friends and to find people with kids your same age. And then, yeah, anyway, I literally felt like we were in the same neighborhood when I was reading.
That is so fun. That's
Yeah.
so fun that it resonated like that with you.
It really, really did. And there are lots of things. I think you had seen this, but I went back and added it as a book club read for my just online virtual book club this month because it was just so amazing. And I was like, but I think it would be a really good like Mother's Day, Mother's focused book as well. For those of us who, especially moms, are so hard on ourselves and focus on our imperfections and then have a really hard time living life because we're stuck in this rut, you know?
It's interesting that you added it for Mother's Day because I remember like thinking that I wanted to read like a Mother's Day book and I would look for some and then I would read them. And a lot of times I would feel like down after reading those because it was about, either someone's like triumphant journey into motherhood or like
Right.
going against all odds or just absolutely like loving it or a million tips on how to do motherhood right. And I just thought this book was maybe the book that I would have wanted to read during that time that really like validated me and allowed me to embrace my whole self and be okay with some of the things that weren't perfect, but then also
Right.
be comfortable with striving for a little bit more.
I think it's the perfect mix of all that because I'm also reading Strong Mothers, Strong Sons, which is kind of one of those books with lots of tips.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not too much to bear at the moment because my son is 4. And so there are a lot of things I can start applying, but some of the case studies and stories have been about teenage boys, which I do not yet have experience with. So I think if I did have teenagers right now, I might be giving myself a really hard time reading that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A little
And
bit
and
harder.
I think it's good for us, to like push ourselves and learn. But every now and then you just need something that also uplifts at the same time. So yeah, I hope that's what this book is.
And that's kind of what my next question was is like what message you hope to share. And it doesn't have to just be one. You have, I think, I want to say 13, 15 chapters.
Yeah, I think you're right. Maybe 18. I think there might be
18.
18. I,
Okay.
I don't know. There were some that ended up on the cutting room floor, so sometimes I can't remember
Right?
exactly. But
Oh, I hear you there. Yes.
but
18. It's 18.
yeah. So it's really just kind of what I said before. I wanted women or men to be able to read the book, to acknowledge their imperfections and realize that those are absolutely part of their journey and part of who they are, nothing to be ashamed of or try to hide. Um, I also wanted people to be able to celebrate like the great parts about them and their talents and gifts and realize that they have a lot they can bring to the world and kind of maybe give people like a little nudge to be a
Mm-hmm.
little braver in doing that. And then obviously, using Christ as a central point in order to become, who you want to eventually be, and not in a do it right now or you're so horrible right now, but just in a way that says like I'm absolutely capable of being more in a really great way, not in a guilty way.
I love that, like that guilt free approach because you can feel that. I think that the fact that you have the prompts, oh, they're called exercises at the end of each chapter. Not all, I say prompts, and the reason I change that is because sometimes when you hear prompt, you think writing. So not all of them required writing. A lot of them required thinking, maybe
Mm-hmm.
resetting, reshifting our perspective. And for me, like I love the atomic habits model. And so
Yeah.
some of the things I've read in your book have made it onto I have a calendar. It's easier to keep track of for me, for my mom brain to have it in front of me every day. But I really think that you, like you said, you just presented it in an approachable way. It did not feel like too much. It didn't feel, it was like bite sized, chunks. And I looked at it and I said, these things that I want to work on, like it's all here, my thoughts and everything, but I don't have to just like attack each thing right now. I have time,
Yeah.
and I'm not using time as an excuse, but just like I have time and I need to use that time productively and effectively. And um, I really like this kind of leads into my next thought, but one of my absolute favorite parts of the book was the lesson at church when everyone was asked to fill in the blank. I am, and there were lots of words supplied, enough, brave, courageous, charitable. And I love that you chose I Am Trying. And maybe because I thought of the primary song, I Am Trying to Be Like Jesus. I love that song. And I also think that as moms, if we tell ourselves and remind ourselves, I am trying, that it's a lot more great giving ourselves grace than the other things we might think of ourselves. So why was that the right answer for you then and for many of us?
Um, so it was actually in a yoga class, but it totally could have been at church too.
Oh, okay. It
And
was at yoga,
yeah, it was at
meditation.
yoga. And it was just during those last like 5 minutes of Shavasana. And, they were just giving us those prompts. And those suggestions were words that I wanted to be able to honestly say to myself. And we were just going through a really hard time. Like I felt like I was failing in every single area, like legitimately, like, you know, my kids weren't doing the right thing. And because of that, like I was having a really hard time, like being present in my marriage and, just even like the daily things that I'd always been pretty decent at. I felt like I was, not doing enough scripture study, not doing enough prayer, not doing enough service, all those things. And I just felt, but it wasn't for lack of wanting. Like I wanted to like be on my game. Um, and so as I was sitting there thinking, and she was giving all the suggestions, I'm like, nope, 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 nope. And I just really feel like there was like just like a little nudge from the spirit, because I was for sure trying. Like every single day I was like getting up, I was fighting the fight, I was showing up even when I didn't want to. I was, even if I was doing like holy habits halfway, like I was like trying to put those in my day. And I just felt just like a really strong peace and calm that like for that moment, trying was enough. And I've had that feeling like often, because I think one of the things I was unprepared for was that efforts don't always equal immediate outcome in motherhood. And so it was really frustrating to, because in all the things that I'd done before motherhood, like if you study hard for a test, you do well. If you work really hard at your job, you get a promotion. There's all these things where it was like, if you do this, then this happens. And I would say motherhood was the first thing and possibly the only thing where the rewards can, maybe they're, every now and then they're immediate and, sometimes maybe even the next month, but more often than not, like it's kind of a long-term game. And I had to realize that I needed to celebrate my willingness to keep like going, even when I wasn't seeing the outcomes that I wanted to see.
And that's pretty huge. Like that's so metacognitive too, because you have to like look at your thinking and how you're approaching things and then find a way to shy away from that, right? Vie away from that way of thinking. And like that to me is hard. I feel like there are a lot of habits I can make and create, but like when it comes to my thoughts, my thought process, that is so hard to control. and
Yeah.
and it's really what a lot of us women, that's why we beat ourselves up, is our thought process is so complex, i but I love what you said, because it is a long-term game. Motherhood is a long-term game. And when you decide to play, right, when you get pregnant and you have your baby and you start a family, it's a huge lifestyle change. There's just a lot. I mean, and some people, it looks different for everyone, but I feel like my husband and I were both dual income earners. I was a teacher, which was like the best. I loved being a teacher. But I actually decided to resign or early retire the year we were trying to start our family. And then we were blessed with my son, and I was able to finish teaching that year. And thankfully, not I wasn't on my feet like in the third trimester, because that would have been hard. I admire the teachers that do that. But it's crazy that from that moment, really, and my son's only 4 right now, my oldest, but already so many decisions we made back then are impacting how we parent him now. So, like you said, it's this long term game. And then from there, we're looking at what's he going to be like as a teenager? How can we help him be successful? But more than that, feel loved. I love that you focus on that with your boys, that I will always love you. And I have that grace and love for you. And as a mom, you do need to be that person, really.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's really important that they have that, continuity and know that, like no matter what happens, they're loved and accepted. For me, that's also one of like the victories of parenting is even when, it's not like picture perfect, that you can still love your child and you can still love motherhood and you can still love yourself. And that was something I think a lot of times, maybe the world teaches us like, you have to do X, Y, and Z to get X, Y, and Z. And that's just like not the way it goes when it comes to family relationships.
It's not. And it's not a recipe or a step by step process because, again, there's like no easy answer. Every
Right.
family has its own stuff going on. And so I just really liked that you pointed that out because, like you said, it's not like a depressing parenting book by any means because there's different ones. My son's been going through some well, I mean, he's growing up. So he's learning to process his emotions. He's going through some things, but there are a few behaviors that have kind of stuck out to me that I'm like watching and trying not to overanalyze. And as I've been watching him and trying to think about how I react versus how my husband reacts and how he then reacts as well, how it builds.
Mm-hmm.
There have been a lot of things that have kind of helped me um, and even as an adult, I didn't realize this, but I think I kind of qualify as highly sensitive. And so as my son has been getting nervous around bigger crowds and too much noise, or he doesn't like to get too wet, or like other things. Like last night, the door blew closed while I was writing in my journal, and I jumped. And my husband's like, I do not understand why you do that every time. And I said, I'm not choosing to. That's just how I
Right.
react. I've always kind of had that kind of jumpy reaction. And he's like, I was like, if I was acting, I have been doing a really good job for 7+ years in front of you.
Right.
And so it just always bothers him. Like sometimes he would walk into a room and just start talking, but I was in my own world. I was writing, I was doing something else. And so I see some of those maybe possible behaviors with my son, but I'm like, okay, so how I'm handling that as an adult obviously is not a way for a child to handle it. How do I help him process those things and keep living life? So like you said, though, that he can always know where to come and who loves him, and that our relationship, regardless, it's not picture perfect by any means, but that he knows a source of love, a place to come when he needs to talk, and that he also knows how much we value his relationship with God, and we also are trying to incorporate that in how we're parenting. All of that is really important to me. And I know it's different parenting littles versus once they're teenagers. And I think I've been nervous about that, but I've loved watching all of your content and seeing your newest adaptations for Come Follow Me and different things. Because I'm like, parenting a teenager can be fun. I wonder why everyone's so negative about it. I really think there can be some very fun, but challenging, but fun times. And so I just thought, I really appreciate that I get that from you because even though I don't have teenagers yet, I'm not terrified of it now like I was when I first became a parent.
Well, and I think so much of what I wanted to put in the book is that it's just natural. Like having hard times is just fine and it's part of life, and kind of changing that expectation that nothing is going to be hard, but that hard doesn't equal horrible. Hard is just hard. And then there's also really great times. And um, having teenagers has actually been my very favorite stage. I have loved it. And not that everything's gone right, not that we haven't had a million breakdown moments of, oh my word, what in the world is going on here? But it's been so fun. It's been so rewarding. Our relationships are real and deep and meaningful to me, and I hope to them too. And so, yes, I think just going into the teenage years, if I could do something different, I would go in with my eyes wide open and say, there's going to be some hard times and there's going to be some good
Mhm.
times, and I'm here for all of it. So,
Yeah, I'm here for all of it. I love that. And that's the thing. It's really like I'm going to roll with it because it's
yeah,
all going to come our way, right?
yep.
And I really feel like you've just acquired so much wisdom as a mom. And granted, obviously I haven't spent as much time since I don't have teenagers yet as a mom, but I feel like that so much of that came across in your book, but without being preachy. And I also really loved that you mentioned it being critical for parents to remember that parenting is a personal spiritual and emotional matter and not a social matter. If you don't mind talking about that a little bit more, I really, really enjoyed that sentiment.
Well, the thought actually came originally from Ralphie Jacobs, who Simply on Purpose, and
Yes,
she is
I
such
love
a great
her
parenting
stuff.
expert. And I actually just heard it like on one of the podcasts that she was doing, and then I kind of tweaked it to fit a little bit more of what I needed. And I was just when she said that, I think for most of us, there's universal truth, regardless of what you believe in. And when you hear something that hits you to your core. Like, I feel like that's universal truth. And for me, it was like this big aha moment. It was during a time when maybe things weren't going as well on the outside. And I had been I had been using quite a bit of energy to kind of like, I don't know, like mitigate what the outside looked like and, like kind of focusing on that. And then when I heard her say that on the podcast, I was like, well, why am I spending time on what the outside looks like? Like this has nothing to do with anyone but me and my kids and my husband, and the people that actually care about us, and the people that care um, are the ones that aren't that concerned about what it looks like on the outside. And
Exactly.
so I started just kind of embracing like, this stage and that stage or this behavior and just being like, okay, so this is what's going on. And then really like praying and being sensitive and trying to figure out what's the best solution for us. And a lot of times that is not what looks good. And I remember being a younger mom and being like, well, no wonder your kid is such a mess. You don't do this, you don't do this, you don't do this, like, or
Right.
whatever. And kind of like letting go of all those
Right.
preconceived notions and just being able to say, okay, like, how can we best help this child who needs this right now? What's the best solution? And sometimes that wasn't always like what I wanted my neighbors to see, but it worked for us. And I just started to embrace that.
And I think that's huge, again, just because even within your own family unit, family structure, you may parent your kids all very differently, and that's fine. I don't
Mhm.
understand actually why there's a lot of criticism with that, just because some kids, all kids have different needs, but some kids have special requirements or need special attention in ways that others don't. I know that in my own family, I'm the oldest of six, but I know that a few of us, so when I say us, this includes me, were really negative or pessimistic naturally. Like that's just, I mean,
Mhm.
the natural man kind of is that way, but we were especially good at focusing on the one negative thing and not remembering all the many wonderful blessings and gratitude and things. And as an adult, I have learned to do my gratitude journal daily so that I am at least focusing on one thing, even if it was an awful, horrible, no good, very bad day. And
Yeah.
so, anyway, but with my mom, I feel like she parented myself and the other siblings that thought that way differently than those that were, and also like lower self esteem. She really worked to build us up, but she didn't over compliment the other kids whose self-esteem was really good and secure, like based on what was
Yeah.
going on in their lives. And she was a fabulous mother. She is, sorry, she's still alive.
Yeah.
She's a fabulous mother for doing that. And I think that takes a lot of you know, I call it mom tuition. Yeah, like intuition, mom
Mhm.
tuition, and the spirit, and going from there, because there were just so many different needs, even among six kids. And I think if we all take that approach that we're going to look at what's good personally for us and spiritually for our family and not worry what it looks like to everyone else, because I know for a fact even how I might discipline a rowdy child at church is not how everyone else in the foyer might be doing it, and
Yeah,
that's okay.
totally. Well, I had a really sweet mom like direct message me and just ask if she could have a conversation
Mm-hmm.
because she has boys and they're not living up to the expectation of the grandparents. And
Okay.
um, she just asked my advice. And one of the things that I would say that you can do at any age or stage is just be really open with the people that love you and love your kids. And so she has one kid that is especially difficult and she gets a lot of flack from the grandparents about it and like lots of suggestions, and I just told
Right.
her to just let them know that you're aware that he's
Mm-hmm.
difficult, you're aware that he is not behaving like you wish he would or like others wish he would, and that you're working on it, and that any extra love and support they have would go a long way. And that was like a really valuable piece of advice. And you can do it at any age. You can do it when your teenagers will not engage in conversations with their grandparents. You can do it when, your middle schooler is having a little bit of an attitude at church. You can have those conversations with the people that love your kids and just let them know that you're aware.
Right.
Sometimes I think other people assume that you don't know that your child is hard, which is usually never the case. But
Right.
but just letting them know, like, you're aware, you're working on it, and any extra love and support can go a long way. And that's made a big difference. If you prefer, like, if you are someone who does need some social validation, or you're like a pleaser, sometimes that's really helpful to allow you the space to parent not for social reasons.
I think that's huge because after I took that's such a good takeaway. After I took like the little quiz and read Gretchen Rubin's Four Tendencies, I fully identified as an obliger. And
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of known that through the years, but like it was like blatant how it was in my face. Like you're so much an obliger that it's a weakness. And
Mm,
so as I started looking at that, I remember, with various family members, how kind of on edge I was with my son because he was the first grandbaby on one side of the family. He was the first grandson on the other side of the family. So there were just, you
yeah,
know, all kinds of things to discuss, right?
yeah,
And I get it. And I 100% appreciate, feedback and constructive criticism. But when it comes to I wrote it down because any love and support for our kid is appreciated will resonate with anyone who's a family member and really cares about
yeah,
the outcome of your child. So I love that.
yeah,
I think that's a really good way because I still, of course, every age and stage you get unsolicited feedback from the nice old man at the post office to when you're getting your kids into school, other moms in the classroom to, and even serving in church callings, seeing all kinds, being involved in all kinds and all walks of life. It comes your way. And sometimes
it
people
really does.
feel, entitled to share it. And I try to remember so that I don't get super offended. Where are they coming from?
Hmm.
I had someone even come on my show. And a lot of it has been like the show has been around literacy and education, but I've had a lot of Christian background and influence lately, which I love too. I'm loving that vibe. But she kind of misunderstood me and it was hard because I definitely felt judged for a minute because she
Hmm.
thought I was putting podcasting and being an author, children's book author, in front of my children, and I am not. And I do not feel like my kids get in the way, so I rephrased things so that she really knew. I was like, in fact, I rescheduled our podcast interview because I was at my son's t-ball game last night. Actually, family is huge. I was like,
Right.
to be honest with you, podcasting is a hobby that I really enjoy, that's helping me grow, that's fueling my love of literacy and education. But the
Yeah.
minute that it feels like it's taking away from my kids, I step back. And as we get ready for our move, you are actually my last interview. Everything will air through, and then like sometime in June, I'll hop back on and start season 2. But it is all about my family right now, and they're actually at the park playing with grandma and grandpa, which is perfect because I was
That's
worried
awesome.
my little one would be running in here. But again, I don't resent it. I
Yeah.
don't. That is my stage right now as a mom. I
Yeah.
love it. I embrace it, and I've been doing the Flecks of Gold journal from Rachel Nielsen, and it's just the perfect way to end the day because there's so many things that happened, but if I can remember the one good thing, just like my gratitude journal, then it
Yeah.
really helps me feel like, hey, I've got this motherhood thing and I enjoy it and I love it. I'm going to revel in it, because this stage when they're this little does not stay around, like they grow up.
Yeah.
So
It's so true.
anyway, it's kind of interesting thinking it like ahead and then back, but yeah, like realizing that this is it and I need to really make the most of this time. And I was just sad that my guests had that impression from me. And so I'm like, I need to go back and listen to that episode and see what I said that made her think, you know, and maybe
Yeah.
it was because I was talking about the balance between, okay, an hour or two of writing, which happens often after they go to bed. It's not like I sit in the middle of the day and write.
Yeah, right.
They're 4 and 2.5, so that's kind of
Totally.
hard to. Mom needs about an hour to write. You guys go make mischief,
Yeah, right. And
No.
even if you wanted them to, they probably wouldn't for that long. So,
Right. Oh yeah. My littlest one, she will always find me. So she's a
yeah.
nice girl, and I love that. But anyway, so while we're kind of, I mean, I know I wish I could have been quicker on this, because I love that it's Mother's Day this weekend, and I love celebrating women, Women's History Month in March, and now celebrating women in motherhood roles. I want to discuss real feminism for a minute. I literally couldn't have defined it any better than how you did. And what you had said is you talked about how people don't need to hide their talents just so that I can feel better about mine, for example. And I feel like that goes right along with Come Follow Me this week as we talk about all the gifts of the Spirit and
Hmm.
all the different things. Like it literally says it's given to some and it's for a benefit to all. And if you look
Right.
at it that way and you remember your mindset is, I am here to help others and serve, then you're grateful for the gifts you've been given. And, it really
Right.
does help. So you went on to say, a real feminist allows all women to discover what their best self is and then lets them be that best in a world, nation, and community that refuses to cut down what is painstakingly being built inside the home or outside of it. And so my big question there is, how do we as women seek to build up others while developing our own talents?
I think the best thing we can do is just to really embrace the idea that everyone has a different purpose here, and be really comfortable with that. And I know it's difficult. I think I wrote in that little section about there was a time when I was living next to this concert pianist who was like so incredibly educated and well versed. And she was using words that I didn't even know. And I was an English major and didn't think I did too badly, but she was just so cultured. And there were times when I just was thinking, like, what am I doing? Like, I just teach Zumba and stay home with my kids, and she's just like furthering education and she's so
Right.
passionate about so many things. But then on the other hand, another neighbor was doing all these magical celebrations. Like the magic school bus came before the beginning of
Oh, yeah.
school. And like, and then she was like, we lived in Michigan, but
Like
on
super mom.
Pioneer Day, she like sewed clothes for her kids. And it was just like, I just felt so overwhelmed by all the things I wasn't doing. And I'd also felt like that in Arizona. So obviously, this is something that I struggled with, and it's taken me a long time to understand and to really let people be who they're supposed to be, because
Mhm.
the world is better when we're all contributing our best self. And my friend that was a concert pianist, she now is like a conductor and doing amazing things. And, the friend that was doing the magic school bus, she's now mom to older kids and she still makes things really magical. And she's actually a single mom and like doing so great. And so just letting people, like, why would I not want her kids to have the magic school bus? Or why would I not want this other mom's kids to have that piano in their home all the time? And then just understanding that I have a lot of things that I'm bringing to my kids too. And then it's also not wrong to want to improve. If I was like, hey, like, I don't know, sometimes I see a family doing something. I actually am like, there's a lot of people who are, they're really good at minimalism and I'm really good at maximalism. So like I hear something, I'm like, that's a great idea. We should do that. That's a great idea. We should do that. And really helping myself like weed through things like that and say like, what's the most important thing for our family,
Yeah.
So
No, I'm laughing because I'm writing a self-help book very slowly, mind you. Um but it's about finding joy and happiness in our lives, and I literally wrote a chapter on minimalism, which is my weakness. It is. Even
yeah.
as we get ready to move, I'm like, this object has moved 4 times now. Do I really want to pack it up again? If I do, what value does it have to me or the
Yeah.
family? But I'm laughing just because it literally, like, my husband is beating his head on the wall over there as he's like packing up his few belongings. He's realizing what he can. Oh, he's so good at minimalism. And I
Yeah.
realized the other day, like, that has honestly contributed to several disagreements we've had because
Mm,
and it's not like I'm not talking even financially. It's just like my desk, which I'm not going to show you. It's not great right now. I'm organizing it, but I've always called it, since I taught school, an organized mess.
Yeah.
Everything is out
Yeah.
in piles because that's how my brain works. And it doesn't have drawers. It will,
Yeah.
it will at the next house, and I'm sure this will improve. But a lot, I have like folders and files and things, but I'm writing a children's book, then I'm writing my self-help. Those have to be in separate places. I run a blog, and just I'm writing all the time, writing scripts for my podcast. So like everything has its place. But my
Yeah.
husband literally is like, I am so like, why can't you get rid of more? I'm going to
Well,
start
and just
burning
like,
dresses.
and even just like embracing that about you, like, yes, like, could you be more organized? Yes. Right. Like, and that's how I feel about myself. Like, could I be more organized? Like, could I plan my day better? Like, all those things, like, are absolute yeses. But then also like embracing the other side of those things, because of that, like, I have a lot of ideas and I overcommit, but because I overcommit, I have a lot of relationships and I'm able to help people. And so not seeing it always as a negative, like your own things, but being open to improvement. I never want to say like, yeah, I'm just going to stay a mess my whole life. There's a chance, but I'm constantly trying to improve and constantly trying to, figure those things out in time. There's times in my life where I'm like, sorry, this is not happening right now. Um, but just the whole idea of letting everyone be their best self and celebrating, I think that's another thing that we can do to really like show our support of others. Is I think it's really natural, especially as women, to kind of downplay other people's successes, or the things they're good at, or even like talk about them behind their backs, like, oh my gosh, she's so overboard, or she's so crazy about keeping her house so clean. Like, how do you have time for that? Instead of like, she really values a clean house. Like, that makes her life better. And I bet her family really loves it too. So lucky them. Like,
Mhm.
awesome. She has a clean house. She's so, like,
Right.
she's somewhere where you can like pop in anytime and she's comfortable letting you in, which is such a great quality, and like, just really, instead of downplaying others, even like in front of them or behind their backs. Like, it's been so sweet when people have been so visibly excited about my book and have offered that support in person. It actually makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable, but I'm so grateful for it. Like, how cool that they are so comfortable with themselves that they are willing and able to celebrate other people.
Definitely. And like in this, I'm not sure which chapter it is. It's the power of change. You literally said, do not settle for a mediocre life, a life of petty jealousy, which is where you either downplay people to their faces, or you're gossiping behind their backs, or of underachievements or status quo of living below like your best. So like I said to my husband, I'm not saying this is who I am, I'll never change. I'm just saying, have grace with me as I work on this. I recognize that it is a flaw of mine and that I can do better. I do realize
Mm-hmm.
that, and but like you said, and when I hear of someone that like keeps all of their I saw this funny video on Instagram the other day. It literally showed someone saying, the rooms in my house take turns being clean, just like my kids. And I'm like, she gets me. She read my mind,
Totally.
because my husband would like it if the whole house was clean all the time every day. And then I remind him, if I did that, do you know what our kids would be doing? Do you want to know what our kids would be doing? It's like brushing your teeth and eating Oreos at the same time. They would be tearing apart
Totally.
everything that I'm doing, and or making more messes. I was like, I spend time with them. I cultivate what we're learning, preschool, whatever talents and skills we're working on. And I said, but that's why I wanted to be a mom. I didn't want to be a mom to clean a house. And I'm not saying that because I'm excusing myself. I'm saying I'm not going to have every single bathroom or every single room clean every day of the week because I'm spending time with our kids. That's what motherhood is. And so
Yeah,
it's hard sometimes.
totally.
You have to have that conversation. But like you said, I'm not going to be jealous of a mom that makes it a priority, whether she's hired help or she's doing it herself to keep her house clean, because that's important to her. That helps her function. For me, that's kind of what exercise has been, is like, whatever form it takes, if I can get in 20 or 30 minutes, I like thrive so much better
Yeah.
throughout the day.
Yeah.
We all have
That's
our
awesome.
different whatever it is, but it's good to be grateful for what we do have, and then not to, like you said, look at others, because really it's interesting. Pride can be looking down on someone, and it can also be looking up, comparing ourselves at someone and saying, I want that lifestyle, I want to be like that, and almost kind of coveting what those people have, and it really
Yeah.
does us no good. It's a major disservice to do that. And so there's
Yeah.
just so much truth to what you've said. I'm like, my brain's just swirling over here. um let's see. Okay, I'm gonna flip the page just so I remember to go back and edit that. I maybe this is sticking out to me more. So my sister-in-law that I read this with is in Utah where I'm moving, but I love the chapter "Constantly Connected, Always Lonely." Oh man, for so many reasons. But I wondered how you feel the knowledge has power to change hearts. So you had specifically said knowledge has the power to change hearts.
Yeah. This is a lesson that I learned like on my own, like from my end and then from the ends of others. Like I really thought that like everyone wanted you to just be your best self all the time. And that's just not true, because people want you to be who you are and they want to love you for who you are. And it's really, really difficult to love someone who's always like functioning at 99% of their best self, because they don't need you. And so one of
Right.
the things that I have learned is that by being open and honest, and it's funny, I talked about this on another podcast, but in the right circumstances and with the right people, not just everything's out there the first time you meet
Right.
somebody, like definitely like having some boundaries. But when people care about you and when you care about others, like being open and honest. And I think it changes. It's even like the conversation that we had about, talking to the grandparents, that you're really working on things and this is kind of a struggle and hard and you'd love the extra love. There's an example in the book of a friend that I had that I was like being a little bit hard on and thought, like, why isn't she showing up? Why isn't she taking her turn? Why doesn't she ever take the, like do the play dates and things like that? And then she came to me and said she was really struggling with depression. And there was an immediate flip of the switch. And the flip wasn't, okay, then I'm out. The flip was, how can I help you? How can I love you? I cannot believe that I've been sitting here, being so bugged that you are, not taking your turn when you're struggling with something. Now, had she never opened up, I hope I would be a good enough person to just continue and like try to make that friendship work. But I think we're all human. And maybe at some point you would just kind of give up or let it go by the wayside. But the minute she opened up, for one, our friendship intensified to something that was very meaningful. And for two, I felt like I could be there for her in the ways that she needed. And that created a stronger bond. And so if we want to connect with people, we need to be open and vulnerable. And then we also need to be willing to listen to their stories and let them know that they're also loved, like unconditionally.
And I think the beauty of that is, like you said, I'd like to think too, there was someone I served with at church who we were working with the youth, and I felt, no, I didn't feel like I was doing most of the calling. But you serve in twos with the youth. And so I kept thinking, I wonder what's going on with her. Maybe I should figure out like what um like if something's impacting her ability to do X, Y, and Z. And I don't want to say too much, but it was kind of like with the planning of the activities, with notifying parents, and then with bringing supplies. I was doing it all. And she would show up and she would occasionally bring something, but I was like, this is so bizarre. And so I was talking to another mom at the park while our kids were playing. And when I told her the name of the sister in the ward, the woman, she said, oh, she's going through a really tough divorce right now. My heart shattered. It really did, because I was like, oh my gosh, I was not giving her the time of day. Like I was not giving her any grace. And I didn't even know that was going on, but now I understand. Oh my goodness. And then it gave me the ability to reach out to her and to serve her. But like you said, I don't know if I hadn't kind of talked about that and figured it out. I don't know that I would have learned her story, but seriously, it broke my heart. I felt like, why
Yeah.
am
And I
I being
think,
so hard on her? What is wrong with
well,
me? Like,
and that's like a perfect example though of why we open up, is because people are better than we think they are. And most people want to give you grace and they want to help and they want to love. But we all have this like little fairness bone in our body that's
true.
like, I don't want to do too much for no reason. And I've also been in situations where someone doesn't share what's going on, and people, it's easy to feel taken advantage of, and it's easy to feel a little bit resentful. And I really do think, especially if you're talking like close friends and people that you work closely with, there really should be nothing stopping us from sharing our hearts and what's going on. If it's a time that we need help, there's a line in the book like that I remember writing that's like, how can we bear one another's burdens if we never know what they are? Like we're not magical. We can't figure it out. We might get a vibe like, ooh, something might not be right, but that's not always right. And so just kind of being willing to open up, and you don't have to open up to 100 people. You can open up to 5 people that matter to you, and that will be on your team and will cheer you on and will help you through something. And I know we were never meant to go through the hard things all by ourselves. That was not part of the plan.
And that's definitely true, because as you know, as repentant as I felt after the knowledge I gained, it was kind of like just knowing that the Savior has been there and been through the loneliest and most heartbreaking circumstances, just makes it a lot easier to bear.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Oh my gosh, this conversation has been awesome, and I just love that it's kind of taken a course. I mean, I have my guide, but like I like that we've been able to discuss these things, and I've shared stories I had no intention of sharing, to be honest. I did write about one story in the margins in the book because it reminded me, but still,
Yeah.
it's just neat. And opening up is so liberating. It is like you said, you don't need to open up to the whole world. And even what I've shared today, I don't have an issue that it will be, broadcast on the podcast. I think that it can benefit people. There are certain stories that I feel like can really help others, like the ones you shared in your book. And so
Yeah, for sure.
it's hard and it's humbling, and I may even say, oh, this is going to make me look bad, but at the end of the day I realize it can actually just help people be that much more thoughtful and intentional. And so if it achieves that purpose, I'm okay sharing it.
Yeah. And I think too, like, it's funny because I shared a lot in the book. And a lot of it wasn't like making me out to be the best person ever. And the thing that I realized is we're all just the same. Like you said, like everyone's had those experiences and everyone's had those thoughts and everyone's had those feelings. And so just like understanding how similar we are, and that when we share a story or an experience, especially one that we've learned from or we can become better because of, I think it's inspiring to other people, because I know immediately like people go to that instance when they were too quick to judge, or, when they decided that someone's kid was just annoying and you can't stand them. And then you find out, the story behind it. And I think we're all just really similar, and allowing those stories helps support each other on a better path to becoming who, we were always meant to be.
And I love that you've mentioned that. It's almost kind of like a mantra, but like that, like this book helps us connect to Christ and become who we were meant to be. And really, the plan of salvation is all about that as well. We just need to know that it's a process, it's a
Yeah.
journey. Enjoy the journey, find hope and feel fulfilled in the journey while and that's the thing, you're in the thick of it. So I mean, it's really an endure to the end kind of aspect too. But I just seriously, and I need to go review it. I was about to say I haven't reviewed it yet. I will go review your book too, because I know
Oh, thank you.
it's so helpful to authors. And this is
Yes.
kind of like a little bit more about the writing process for a minute. What would you say common traps or pitfalls for writers are, especially in the self-publishing industry or process?
Um, there are a couple that I felt like I ran into, and I'm only one person, so I don't know if this is a similar, story for everyone. Um, Thinking that what you have to say has already been said or has already been done. And I'm just going to say, yes, it has, but it hasn't been done by you. And so it's going to be different because, it's not like you're probably not putting out original thought that no one has ever thought of before. Like those are so rare, but the way that you tell your story will be different and will touch different people. It will affect different people in different ways. And so I think that is one. I think not finding the right editors is one, because it's really, really, really valuable to have multiple people read your work and then to be receptive to what they say. I think it's really hard because like a book is like a baby and you love everything and you think it's also important and you love the way you say it. And just being able to listen to editors when they say, I don't like this, or this doesn't make sense, or, I was working with one awesome woman and she cut 3 chapters um, from my book. And I was like, wait, what? No, no, and she wanted it to go, she wanted me to like pull out
Mm-hmm.
um, a theme that I hadn't thought of, which was imperfection, which is actually made my book what it is. And so had I been like really stubborn about like, but I want that story, but I like that story, but I like this chapter, it would not have been even close to the book that it was supposed to be. So just being open to other people's suggestions and believing them, and that you, a lot of times you do know best, but you don't always know best. So
It's so hard. I'm just shaking my head because I reminded myself after, so it's funny with children's picture books, there's actually a lot more editing that goes into them generally, because you've got a story and then you've got pictures. And so I have a wonderful
right.
illustrator, but she's in Utah, so we actually have just been working remotely. And then I've got my publisher out in Iowa. And I remember the first few times we walked through things, I felt so offended that she wanted to
Yeah.
cut this, that, and the other out, because it's a story about a little girl who stays in her pajamas all day long and rocks it. She's confident until some kids from school start kind of giving her a hard time. And so it's just a book to like spread the message of building self-esteem and confidence
Yeah.
as children and as adults. But what's hard is I also am a very wordy person and I couldn't decide. I mean, I will always love children, and that will probably be my focus, but that's also why I'm writing a self-help for adults, because I just have a lot to say. And I couldn't decide if I wanted it to be an easy chapter book or a picture book. But I kept
Mm,
coming back to, I have seen this story as a picture book. So I'm going to have to get cut into, not me, but my story, which we felt like one, those ideas
yeah.
me.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to allow those changes if I want this to go forward as a picture book. And so it's like that. There's just so many steps, like you said, but having a good editor is huge. I finished my copy
Yeah.
tomorrow, and
Wow. Congratulations.
thank you. It's come a long way. In fact, this book has been like 2 years, and
Wow.
not that I've been publishing it for 2 years, but
Yeah.
since I wrote it. So
Yeah.
anyway, it's quite a process. And I feel like it goes perfectly with the theme of your book, with embracing imperfections, because you really have to look like, and that's the other thing as an obliger. And I told my editor that, I told my publishing company that I don't want to just do everything you say, because
Right.
I still want
Right.
it to be my voice and my story. And so I
Yeah.
said, let's compromise. Let's see where we can.
Yeah.
If I did that, I would be very unhappy and I probably wouldn't be excited to promote it when it launches in September.
Yeah. That's so it's true. Like I had to stick to my guns on a lot of things. And yeah, just really like follow your heart, but then also be open to change. And it was, some of those changes were hard. But like I said, without that, it was my second to last edit, and it was like it changed the book. So
That's cool. And
yeah.
it's crazy how much time really goes into the editing, writing and editing process.
Yeah. It is crazy.
And it shapes you. It doesn't just shape the story. I mean, because I feel like now, even though I know how to take feedback and constructive criticism, I had to do it as a teacher. It's part of your career.
Yeah.
I've been out of the habit for a few years, and so except for like where I'd been serving at church, I really didn't have a reference point, and so that's probably why the editing process came across in such a painful way.
Yeah, for sure. Katie, I have about 5 minutes.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay.
Okay.
Last question, and that is, where can our listeners and audience follow along with you on social media and elsewhere? I know you mentioned Instagram earlier.
Yes. So Instagram, Brooke Romney Writes. I have a website, brookeromney.com, which houses all the things I've written for probably the last, I don't know, 10 years almost.
Okay.
And then if you're interested in the book and you live in Utah, Arizona, or Idaho, you can go to Costco and grab it there. And then if you don't, then you can still grab it on Amazon, and it's also on Audible, and I am the reader. So
Oh, cool. I didn't know that. I
yeah,
don't think I knew you read it, but that's even better.
yeah.
Okay.
It was fun. It was a new experience. So thank you so much for having me and for reading it and making notes and loving it. I so appreciate that. That really, like, I can't tell you how much that means.
Well, thank you for spending time with us today, Brooke. And I truly value the time we've spent talking and learning together. Keep doing all the awesome work you're doing. It's so fun to see what you're up to and blessing so many lives. You're amazing.
Well, I can't wait for your book. So let me know when it's ready.
Great. Thank